Hello and welcome to another Block Chat. This week we are Block Chat number 124. And today with me is going to be Julia. Julia's been on several Block Chats so far. She's, for those who don't know, she's first of all the queen of RWA tokenization in Australia and the APAC, and as well Blocksquare CMO. Julia, welcome. How are you? Welcome back to another Block Chat.
Hi, Dennis. Hi, everyone who's tuning in today. Great to be back for another
Yeah,
episode.
great to have you back. I mean, it's been a bit of it's been some time, I think, but not so much as from the last time that you were here. I think just a couple of weeks back, or maybe a month or two, that you were on the show. Um, Overall, how are things going? What's the general overview in terms of your life?
It has been busy. It has been a very, very, very busy year with Blocksquare, crypto, RWA. Everything is changing every single day. It's hard to plan because every time I'm making a plan, then this next big conference is coming up, or this next big event where someone is asking, hey, we're looking for some players in RWA, someone from Blocksquare joining us. So there's constantly, we are trying to coordinate within the marketing team who is going where. And especially November is always a very, very busy month every year somehow.
Mhm.
So it's been very exciting and also very interesting given the current market and dynamic and everything that's happening in the world.
Definitely. You're somewhere on the east coast of Australia, right? Is that correct?
That's right. I'm at the moment at Gold Coast. A couple of days ago, I was actually until yesterday, I was in Sydney at the Australian Crypto Conference. And that was, it was great. So I flew straight from there to Gold Coast.
We said today we're going to talk about, our experiences building in RWA. Experiences in terms of going to events, going to conferences, right? And how, is that an important thing to do or not? And, there's, I guess, mixed feelings of traveling around, going to conferences. Sometimes, the outcome is great. Sometimes is, not what you expected. But overall, what would you say to somebody who's, building in RWA? Is it worth going to conferences, and how do you pick them?
In general, I would say yes, because it's very business interesting and important for business development and partnership development. Once, first of all, you meet the industry, right? So, especially if you want to build out partnerships with other tech companies, when you have a face, when you met them in person, you have a completely different, reference and basis and connection with them. So that helps a lot. And second is the people who are joining conferences when they are spending like, $500 per ticket, for example, or sometimes even more, they're invested in their education, they're invested in the network, and they're much more serious than people you meet online or who join your Telegram community, for example, randomly. It's a very, very different crowd. And for us, as especially for our B2B arm, the marketplace operations, it is very important as well for us in terms of industry positioning and showing that we're there, we're backing the industry. Sometimes we sponsor events, sometimes we're joining them for BD, sometimes we have a booth. So that's varies also on team availability. But in general, just even to be there and to network and to be that place to go for people, that is worth it. Yeah.
I think the challenge when it comes to building in RWA is, you have these two sides of things, right? RWA is a very crypto thing. And, if you go outside of the crypto Web3 space, saying RWA doesn't really mean much to people, I think. Not yet, because for everyone else, everything is real world assets. You know, it's just for people in crypto and NFTs and Web3 and DeFi who feel that there's this detachment from the real world when you are in crypto. You know, you have this feeling that you're somewhere in the, I don't know, metaverse or somewhere else. And that, you know, the real world doesn't have any impact on your life, which is not true, because we see that more and more crypto markets, just from a financial standpoint of view, are correlating quite a lot with what's happening in the world. So real world news do impact the crypto world, right? And people in crypto. So it's really converging into one, even from a conceptual, you know, perspective. But when you're building in RWA, I think the challenge is because you have these two sides, right? On one side, you're speaking to this tech-savvy crypto community who understands Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other cryptos out there and concepts. And on the other hand, you have this very traditional type of businesses who have no clue about crypto. They heard maybe about Bitcoin, maybe even Ethereum. But soon as you start explaining to them what a smart contract is, there's a lot of misconceptions of what it does and what it can actually do, right? So when you are doing this, I think it's picking the different conferences. It's the big challenge, right? Because you have very crypto focused conferences, and then you have very traditionally focused conferences. But oftentimes there's nothing in between. And we have instances of conferences that are trying to really go in RWA and do RWA conferences, but the audience is not big enough yet. And so a lot of times this is kind of sub tiers, sub events, side events of established crypto conferences, right? We're not yet seeing a tokenization side event for, I don't know, for a big real estate event like MIPIM in Cannes, for instance. I haven't seen it yet, for instance. So what's your take here? What would you recommend somebody? You know, is there a recipe?
I would say, first of all, what really stands out is depending on the country where you're attending a conference, you have different, very, very different products often displayed. So where Asia, for example, is always much more about gaming, for example, this is something that you hardly see in Australia these days. In Australia, it's more a lot about, you know, payment processors coming out like TradFi going into the DeFi market, going into or into the crypto market, or trying to bring solutions from traditional finance that are more familiar to the people, and now trying to onboard basically the crypto crowd, or the other way around, to make it easier basically for newbies to interact with digital payments. But I would say that I saw probably this year the biggest shift in when I went to Token 2049. This is what was really in Singapore. That was for me like, wow, now we really, really see a big shift of a completely new industry coming in. And that is what I saw now as well in Sydney. That, you know, the much bigger players are coming in, but also much more traditional ones who are really new and entering the space, and often go there to find specifically RWA projects, because this is what they're after. And this is for them the starting point often.
And do you feel like, I mean, your experience now in Sydney, for instance, and you were at another conference on the other side of Australia, right? Or
In Perth, yeah.
in Perth, right?
Yeah, in
Um,
Mandurah, yeah.
and you know, can you compare the two? Is there a comparison, like on the crowd, or you know, what would you
Yeah.
say?
Well, I mean, the other one was much more for real estate, done for real estate, and much more
Okay.
retail, I would say. So you cannot completely different worlds. It's and also one was like, you know, Mandurah. It was very local, more local.
Hmm.
And it was mainly run by our ambassador team in Perth. Like ambassadors
Okay.
came and we did a crypto workshop there, and it was very local, but in partnership with other providers in the space through Orange Brick Road. So more educational. We did very educational there. And now this one was, I mean, the Australian crypto conference is like the biggest in Australia. I think there were something like 10,000 people, or
Hmm.
someone even said to me 15,000 people. And they make it big this year. Like there was the biggest yacht in Sydney that was
Hmm.
available. This is where the crypto party after party happened. So everyone in Australia really contributed a lot, and SwiftX was like massive sponsors, and so very particular big brands in this market. And Perth is much smaller, obviously, and it was about real estate, so it was
Yeah.
very different. Not to compare yet, but as I said, like comparing it with other countries, I always, it's always quite funny because it happened to me actually last year as well. It's like you're going all year long, the team goes to all these conferences, all the conferences. And then the end always comes like Sydney. And we always think, okay, yeah, it's just Australia, it's small. But
Hmm.
every year we are like, this was just the best conference all year. I remember we said that last year and we said it this year again. And so yeah, I highly recommend. Maybe next year we can do a Blocksquare meetup in Sydney. Who knows?
Maybe that's something we would be able to do. I guess it all depends in RWA. Well, not in RWA in general because it's quite wide. But in real estate tokenization, it really matters when you go to these local events as well, because it's there where you can really find solutions that are for a company that is acting there locally, and locally doesn't mean small by any means. It just means that it's focused on a specific demographic, on a specific geographic, um, and being present there is really important. And that's why, we've built regional hubs and the ambassador program so that we really can have this local approach to markets and be present in as many places as possible um, with people who have an understanding of how Blocksquare's tokenization frameworks work, etc. Right? Um,
Yeah, I just
and
one thing which I would like to add here as well is that this year we also went to New Zealand. In Auckland, Blockchain New Zealand organized the first real estate tokenization forum, and
Mhm.
they chose one of the biggest players in real estate in New Zealand, Bailey's, who hosted that event. And it was full of real estate people, and it was, yeah, a really great event. We sponsored that. We were talking there, and we got a lot of really great connections and a market opener for the New Zealand market from that event. So I think for the real estate industry, this kind of educational event and introducing them, but doing this in partnerships with traditional real estate agencies and big brands in that space, that is very important for bringing tokenization to
Mhm.
adoption, and because the learning curve is so big in this space.
Yeah, yeah, of course, yeah. And but it's also, the understanding of how you tokenize real estate once it's laid out there, black and white in front of you. I see from the talks we have with business owners, people representing businesses who reach out to us, and looking for solutions. It doesn't take a lot to understand the concept because it's done from concepts that are already known to them. Everybody knows how a bank loan works. Everybody knows how, you can register some kind of security over a title, on a real estate asset. And people understand what assets and liabilities are on the balance sheet. And I think that's something that every business owner understands, or the team within that business. And so it's really easy then to communicate that. Sometimes the concept, however, might be difficult to grasp for maybe um, somebody who's not so involved in business, maybe they're employed somewhere and they're really good at something, but they're not a business owner, they're not an entrepreneur, they never had that experience, and obviously they don't have that understanding that usually business owners and entrepreneurs do have on all of those accounting and financial and legal aspects of that matter when you're structuring a tokenized asset. So I think there's a lot of education that needs to be done, but it's in general. It's like people are transitioning to become investors. So everyone with the internet, of value, um, everybody can be an investor. Before that was just reserved for the rich in a way. Everybody else was struggling from day in day out in a way, and then not really being able to put anything aside. Now that's possible. You can start with with $100 or $1,000 or $10,000, whatever your target is. You can start investing and educating yourself in investments, right? And I think that's a big change. Um, we were talking about earlier very traditional non-crypto conferences versus crypto conferences, right? um, the advice for somebody who is building an RWA real estate tokenization marketplace, some of us, some of the companies we work with, how should they plan their strategy, their event strategy, let's say, how to approach events? A lot of times these event organizers, they offer you booths and expensive tickets. Is there a hack somewhere for teams who are, kind of bootstrapping their marketplace?
I mean, that is, the golden question. How do you sell tokenized real estate the most efficient way? And what's the secret? Look, I believe it depends what market you target. Like, what country do you target, for example, or where is your tokenized real estate? That's number one. Where do you find your target? And of course, what's your budget as well? Because if you're a little startup, you might be stretching your budget a little bit to have a big stall in Dubai at 2049, right? Next year. So the budgets in sponsorships and event participation vary massively. And I think that the more you brand yourself as well, the more opportunities are coming up, where you get speaking slots, more like to represent and really participate for educational purposes, and because they try to get good speakers on board and good companies on board who cover that. And then of course you sometimes when okay, this is worth it, I'm coming now with a bigger team, then of course you're going to get a stall as well so people can come and see you. But if you're a one person show, it's not really worth doing that, because you might be just too early to do that, because at the moment you have to put your money into your legals and you take and your marketing and everything around that. So I think your budget plays a big role. The team size plays a big role. What I sometimes see is that there's companies, yes, they have a stall and then people go there and then they just hired promoters and you ask questions and nobody can really help you. That it
Mhm.
might be great to show your brand and you show, yes, I participate in that market, and that's important as well. Like the bigger you get, it's important that you have that presence. But your team should be able to help the people who are coming and who are looking for this advice and what to do next and what are the first steps. And I think that's important that you plan, you know, put your money where you then also can provide. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's the challenge when you're launching a tokenized marketplace as a founder of or part of that founding team, is that on one side you have this traditional events and on the other side you have this crypto events, and the crypto events are very expensive to be part of. Traditional events, if they're international as well, but you might have local events that don't have that expenditure. So my belief was always that if you're building a marketplace, look at the local events. Local events, you might, will charge you much less to be present there, but might give you even more space just because you're doing something interesting locally. And it's not about, trying to grab the world. It's about trying to grab the town, or, the municipality where you're part of, the community you're part of. And I think there's a lot of things that people can do on a local level. You can organize regular meetups, and with Blocksquare regional hubs, you even get it funded. So that's one thing you
Exactly.
can do, right? And this local meetups might attract, I don't know, 20, 30 people. What you can do is you can give them a side gig, that these people might bring other people that might be interested to co-invest in deals on your marketplace. And you might start, creating a community of around 100 people who would like to co-invest with deals that you bring on the marketplace. And that's already something, right? And it doesn't cost much. You can do webinars. Doing webinars, as again, it doesn't cost much. You can do webinars for 5 people, 5 participants maximum. So it's really kind of, you pre-schedule it, you then talk with these people, and you get their feedback, their understanding of what you are selling in a way, and you learn from that, experience, and you're then
Yeah,
creating a community, and
that's
that's what you're doing, right?
yeah, and I think that's a great example what you just mentioned. For example, that Mandura workshop we did 2 weeks ago.
Hmm.
It was great, but when you do local events, it also needs a lot of organization. So you can't constantly do that. But what we were saying is, and we had also speakers, like the other speakers who joined this workshop, were flying over from Melbourne and from all around Australia to talk at
Okay.
this event. So you can do that maybe once a year, right? But now what we said, because the workshop concept was great, so we said,
Hmm.
okay, why don't we do this once a month online? The same thing, same group, same presentations, attracting new crowds, use the same concept, but deliver it online so people not only from Perth can join, like people from everywhere in Australia or around the world can join.
Exactly. I mean, it's not about, a lot of people try to, do one thing that will get them 10,000 users. That one thing doesn't exist. It exists many things repeated over and over and over again that attract a specific type of crowd. We're doing these blog chats because we're trying to attract a crowd of entrepreneurs, of people, of companies who are thinking ahead and want to engage in real estate tokenization and utilize an infrastructure that has been tested out and has been, developed for quite a while. And so it's safe to use and it's successful. So that's why we're doing these block chats. And we're now at episode 124, which says a lot, right? If you do webinars once per month, you're gonna do 12 of them per year. If you attract 10 people, that's 120 people that might uh, join your marketplace or not. That's not going to cut it. But if you do, 10 times that, then you start getting into numbers that make sense, right? It does take some work, but you're going to perfect your pitch as well through that process.
Well, in business and in online marketing, it's all about persistence, right? It's not that you're doing one post on LinkedIn and everyone has been just waiting for your message to come out to the world, right? So you have to be constantly going. You have to try new things. If something works well, you repeat it, do it more often because people are busy in their lives. Not everyone has time to join on this Thursday night, but maybe they have time to join next Thursday. So, or I mean, our blog chats are also recorded and available always on YouTube. So if someone is looking for a particular topic, they always can find us there as well. So I think it's about really just being present, but pick what's right for you. But it's very important, and I hope that maybe next year, who knows, maybe by next year we have 10 marketplace operators in Australia, which would be brilliant. And why not having a collective store? Why not having an entire real estate tokenization area? where everyone can be and where we are joining up on the infrastructure together, bringing this together to the market. It's not about just being a single player. I think choosing an infrastructure like Blocksquare also means joining a supportive network of different marketplace operators as well. And I think it's important that I would love to see that marketplace operators learning from each other. That they maybe
Yeah.
even, let's say they're getting started. Let's jump on a call and let's reach out to, Portu, for example, and see, hey, how are you guys doing? Can you give us some tips what worked for you? Or let's reach out to Landhive. That is actually something I had a lead, and he was like, oh, what the Landhive guys doing, I really like, what works for them, what works or not. Like we see that more and more often,
Mhm.
that fresh leads are relating to concepts from other marketplace operators in different parts of the world.
Yeah, definitely. I think that the experience is, we're living in a global world where, certain concepts work elsewhere as well, and it doesn't make sense not to share those learnings with somebody else from maybe another part of the world who's not addressing the same market as you are. Um, for sure. And on the point of having a joint stall, actually, a couple of years back, I think like 2 years ago or maybe 3 years ago, there was a prop tech conference, I think in London, and we were actually thinking about doing that with Fibri, taking a bigger space. And then a smaller one for Fibri, and then inviting different companies within Fibri that are in, somewhere in the real estate and blockchain space active. Um, it was maybe a bit too early. There was some interest, but the overall cost of organizing it was just too big for certain startups to be able to engage. But I think with this RWA events, or with crypto events, and bringing, a set of real estate tokenization marketplaces, and if it's in a place like Australia, that would be really, really amazing, and I think it could be done. Blocksquare would most probably be able to help there. So, anybody launching or working on launching a marketplace in Australia, we're here to help, I guess. Yeah.
So what I'm really interested in is to hear where you are right now, and what are you going to be up to the next days? Because we had quite a big news actually this week as well, which relates as well very much to the traditional real estate industry, right? Or
Ye-
real estate space.
Exactly. And I mentioned it, I think, maybe in the last block chat I mentioned it, or maybe it was one of the AMAs where I was part of, where we've been selected in this ULI accelerator program. And it's been some time since we were on an accelerator program, and that was back in 2019. So very early days. And we were in an accelerator program in Geneva. This one is more, online. So it's not a fixed location where our team needs to be, which is great for us. It's very traditional in a way. It's focused on prop tech, so property technology providers. We're the only tokenization provider in the cohort. And the organizer is Urban Land Institute, and anybody can go and check uli.org. And you're going to see it's a pretty huge organization that spans across the whole globe. It has almost 50,000 corporate members. This is very traditional real estate companies, whether they're some kind of service provider or investment funds or asset managers, or property management companies. So a whole specter of participants in the real estate sector, and we're the only ones providing tokenization of real estate there. And we're going to get
I
access to
think
this
it's an
network.
amazing opportunity.
And with the experience you have, Julia, in creating educational content, because for those who don't know, Julia has another business as well, which really is excellent at providing and creating educational content And you've done it successfully for several courses in Australia, right? Educating real estate professionals, educating professionals in finance about the use of blockchain and tokenization, right? And I think we can transfer some of those learnings maybe to, or collaborate, find a way to collaborate to bring that educational content to people in ULI and organizations in ULI. And so, yeah, I'm tuning in from Paris, where we have this conference today. And I'm going to speak about how it was at the conference at later block chat, maybe. But essentially, there was a pitch as well. And I think it went well. So yeah, that's what's happening, and it's a very traditional crowd. So, crypto
That
is
is
the main topic.
Yeah, and it's the exactly what we're talking about. It's the first really important steps now into adoption in the real estate industry. As you always like to say, back in 2018, nobody wanted to know anything about real estate tokenization. We had to buy our own car park in order to tokenize it, and as our pilot. And now an organization with 50,000 professionals in the space is hosting this accelerator to actually really optimize not only what we do, but also how they can adopt real estate tokenization and bring it to real estate professionals. I think that is the grassroots work for real estate that's needed.
Yeah, for sure. I think the interesting part of this accelerator program is as well that it's tailored for advanced startups. So it's not for small, just started startups, but it's for advanced startups and scale-ups that already have traction on the market, that already have a certain revenue stream or certain revenues generated to date. So there's parameters so you need to fit there, right? In order to fit into it, because they really want to bring solutions that work to their to their members, and not just solutions that might work down the line or require a lot of development and investment. So the whole point here is to educate their members about the solutions that are on the market, and they might have not heard about them yet. And I think that's great. That's really amazing, because we're going to learn so much by being able to talk to all these traditional players that we might not be learning right now, because right now, who comes to us? It's the companies who already heard about tokenization, and then they Google it, or, chat GPT it, or however they search today. And down the line, they see, in the top 10, there's always Blocksquare somewhere. So, somebody doing their homework, they get on a call with us sooner or later, right? And so, but it's a different crowd. It's a crowd that has a pre-education. This one doesn't. And so it's going to be interesting to see how we learn from that experience, and where we go.
Yeah. No, I think it's essential for us as well. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Likewise. So we're past the 30 minutes mark. As always, we need to cut things short, or shorter. Thanks, Julia, again for taking the time to talk, be here with me and talk to our amazing community who follows us every other week. Any final closing thoughts?
What we didn't mention was Christian, who is at the moment at Dave Connect. So who knows, maybe we can get him on the next block chat to tell us everything that's been happening in Buenos Aires, which is completely from a different perspective from a developer side, I guess. And yeah, looking forward to all these upcoming news and partnerships. And yeah, let's keep pushing, and good luck on your conference.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Julia. Enjoy the few days off-ish on the coast, and then well, see you next week, I guess. All right. Thank you, everyone.